Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Yo antaha pravishya mama vacha imam prashuptam sanjeevayati akila shaktidara swadamna anyam shtahasta charana shravanatvagadin Prananamo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam Lasatu Srimadanandatirthenduruno Hridambare Yadvachaschandrika Swanta Santapam Vinikrintati Padavakya Pramanagnan Pranamya Shirasa Gurun Vyakarishye Yata Bhotam Vishnu Tattva Vinirnayam. So, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. Welcome back to the 16th session of Ishavasya Upanishad. I know we've had a 3 weeks break. So what I thought we could do is a quick recap of what's going on here. So Isha Upanishad, what is the background to it? Earth in rotation around the sun moves away from the orbit, or Hiranyaksha moves the earth away from the orbit at least twice in the history of this solar system. Lord Varaha takes avatara, Vishnu takes avatara as Lord Varaha and puts the earth back in its orbit. So at that point, particularly in the Svayambu Manvantara, when this has happened, the Asuras then think about it. We are not able to, destroy this earth by moving it away. But why don't we tackle this fellow Svayambu Manu who is in charge of this Manvantara? Let's go and finish him off. So when that situation happens, Svayambu Manu goes to Yagnavalkya Paramatma and prays to him for protection. So that is the background. So where is the Isha Upanishad coming from? Shukla Yajur Veda. And Shukla Yajur Veda, as you know, has got 15 shakes. The first shake or the branch of the Shukla Yajur Veda is called Kanva shake. And in the Kanva shake, as you know, Vedas have got Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and Upanishad. And this particular Upanishad is in the Samhita or the mantra portion of the Kanva Shaka of the Shukla Yajur Veda. The Kanva Shaka has got, the Samhita there has got 40 adhyayas, and the 40th adhyaya is called Isha Upanishad. So that's the reason why this Upanishad is also called Kanvo Upanishad. It's also called Mantropanishad. It's also called Samhitopanishad. And because Svayambu Manu is praying to Yagna, it is called Yagno Upanishad or Mantriya Yagno Upanishad. So it's got various synonyms. Okay, who is the Rishi here? Svayambu Manu. Not only Svayambu Manu, Dadichi, Yagnavalkya, Kanya Rishi, and all the Acharyas. And why is Dadichi very important as a Rishi for this? Let's look at the genealogy of this very, very briefly to get us, into that compass. Svayambu Manu and Shatarupa, husband and wife, they have 3 children, Devahuti, Prasuti, and Akuti. Akuti has got a son and a daughter. The son is called Yagna. Devahuti marries Kardama, has 10 children, 1 son and 9 daughters. One son is called Kapila, who is also Vishnu's avatara. So Svayambu and Shatarupa are a pretty lucky couple because they got Vishnu taking avataras in their children in various forms, Yagna and Kapila. Yeah. Now, one of the daughters of Devahuti has a daughter called Shanti. And that Shanti, one of the daughters of Devahuti called Shanti, marries Atharvana Rishi. And when that is happening, they have a children called Dadichi. That's why when you look at the Upanishad itself, it says Rishihi Dadyang Atharvanaha. So you have to understand this genealogy that makes things a little bit more interesting. So who is the Devata? Yagnanamaka Paramatma. What is the Chandas? So far we have seen these mantras and all the 3 important Chandas, Anushtup, Trishtub, and Jagati. So we think about Rishi, Devata, and Chandas. And then when we briefly look at this, what is the Isha Upanishad talking about? It is talking about, it has got 4 khandas and it is having concepts in each khandas. The first khanda, we dealt with the nature of the knowers of Brahman. And in the second khanda, we spoke about the upasana of Brahman. What is the right approach to contemplation of Brahman? And in the third khanda, we saw about the consequences of wrong upasana, which is also important. Yeah, we need to know when we do Shastra Abhyasa, we need to know what is knowledge, what is correct knowledge, and we also need to correctly know what is wrong knowledge. That is also knowledge. Okay, so when you have to have these two sides of knowledge, because there are consequences to wrong knowledge, which Svayambu or Manu has described this in great detail. So as this Upasana of Brahman is going on, then Swayambhu Manu is actually having a Sakshatkara. He's actually having an Aparoksha Jnana. He's actually having a Darshana of Brahman or Yajnanamaka Paramatma. He's having a Sakshatkara. And that is a very profound event, isn't it? The whole reason why we are sitting here, and we have been sitting here and doing this satsang for the past almost 3.5 years now, is because we want to have a sakshatkara or darshana of the Paramatma. Okay, that is an initial requirement before we attain liberation. Yeah. So that sakshatkara has to happen, and Swayambhu Manu is getting that sakshatkara. And when that happens, what is he requesting Paramatma? We saw these verses. Hiranmayena patrena satyasya abhihitam mukam Tatvam Pushan Apavrunu Satyadharmaya Drishtaye. And when he is requesting Paramatma, please show me, remove that curtain, I want to see you. When that is happening, he is actually having the darshana of Paramatma. At that point, he is ecstatic and he is saying this mantra. And our acharyas tell us that when we get our sakshatkara, when we get our aparoksha jnana, we probably will remember this verse and recite the same verse. Pushan yekarshe yamasurya prajapatya vyuha rashmin samuha tejaha yette rupam kalyana tamam tatte pashyami yova asau purushaha soahamasmi. So this is where we kind of left about 3 weeks ago. Okay, so let's think about this before we go to the next verse. So here, as just to remind you, when Yajnanamaka is seeing this Paramatma, he is given 5 names. He's actually naming Paramatma. When I say the name of Paramatma is the attribute of a Paramatma, he gives 5. Pushan, Yekarshi, Yamasurya, Prajapatya. And last time we saw that these denote Aniruddha, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Vasudeva, and Narayana forms of Paramatma. Okay, so what is the philosophy there? That Paramatma is everywhere, right? And at the same time, when you look at our body, we have the jivas. Inside the jiva is Antaryamin, and our body has 5 coverings. Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manonmaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya. So there are the 4 coverings. And the philosophy there is, the Vedic philosophy is, because Paramatma is all pervasive, for contemplation, we take each covering of the jiva as pervaded by Aniruddha, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Vasudeva, Narayana. So go back and look at those slides again. But of course, the prime thing is this Paramatma is an Antaryamin. Okay, so you can also take Pushan is a sun. Yekarshi is a Rishi of the Atharva Veda. Yama is the Yama of the Kataka Upanishad. Surya is the Surya that you see every day. Prajapati is the Chaturmukha. So these fellows get those names because they have this Antaryamin in them with those names, and that is the reason why they get their names. Antaryami yadi deivadishu taddharma vyapadeshat. So these are important concepts of Antaryamitva of Brahman, that this Brahman is inside every jiva. And of course, jivas are infinite, and he is in all the matter. The whole of the universe is pervaded by him. Okay, and that this Antaryamin is Jnanananda Rupa is what we have understood when he said, Yatte Rupam Kalyana Tamam Tatte Pashyami. Please show me your Kalyana Tama Rupa. What is Kalyana Tama Rupa means? That Rupa which is Anandamaya, which is full of auspicious non-material attributes and is full of and with no defects. Any person who thinks that Brahman is formless is seriously mistaken. That is not the language of the Vedas. I would only request them to read the Vedas properly. So here in Isha Upanishad, it says Kalyana Tamam Rupam. That is your form. Okay, so Paramatma has a form. That form is Jnananandamaya. Okay, he is not formless. So that is also an important idea that we understood last time when we touched upon this particular verse. and also the key principle of antaryamitva of Brahman. So that is why he said immediately, you are everywhere, you are in all the material universe and you are in all the jivas. And to bring home that message, he said, Ya asau, purushaha saha ahamasmi. So we saw that in great detail. So he says, you are in that sun. So that asau is in two forms there, demonstrative pronoun and a locative singular. Okay, so it is when you take the first asav, and we did this, there are two asavs in this verse, which is very, very important. The first asav is that asav, that person there, that sun there. You are inside that sun as Surya Namaka Paramatma, who is celebrated in the Gayatri mantra. And you are also, asav means locative singular. You are inside this being called asu. You are also inside this Jivottama, or the highest among the souls, called Asu, and you are inside him. So he says, you are yo asau, you are in this prana, or Mukhya prana, or Asu as he is called. And our Guru Svayambu Manu is already mentioned before that his Guru is Matarishva. He said, Tasmin apo Matarishva dadati. You may remember that verse in Isha Upanishad. He's already celebrated his Guru as Matarishva. And here he thinks, because without Guru, there is no hope for Aparoksha Jnana. So he's always thinking about his Guru and worshipping his Guru, because that is the only route to getting Bhagavat Sakshatkara. He says, you are also in that Asu. So we have looked at the root of Asu. Asu comes from the root As, which means to be and to breathe. And that is prana. And we said the final proof of who the Asu is comes from Aitareya Aranyaka, which says, Sa esho asuhu, sa esho pranaha. Okay? So he has named his Guru previously as Matarishva. And he is now in this verse, he's mentioned his Guru as Asu. You are in my Guru as well. You are in that Guru. And that Antaryami who is in that Guru, you are also in me. Okay? And how are you in me? You are in me and Asu as a Purusha. Purusha means what? Purna Shadgunatva, that which is infinitely auspicious attributes. There are so many etymologies. We can say Saha Puru. Saha Puru means Saha means you. Puru means Purna. You are Purna. Puri Shete, you are in this Pura. What is that Pura? The whole Brahmanda can be the Pura. The Jiva can also be a Pura. So you're inside the Jivas. You're inside Asu as a Purushanamaka Paramatma. That same person is also called Aham and Asmi. Okay? That Purusha is Aham Asmi. That is what the contextual relevance and the seamless flow of thought in that particular verse. And last time we had a discussion, and I hopefully I convinced you that for God's sake, let us not assume that we are that Brahman. Okay, that is a serious flaw. Certainly, that is not the approach of Svayambu Manu. He is saying you are inside the Asu as Purusha, and you are inside everything, and you know that you are inside everything as an Antaryamin. That is a literal meaning of Aham Asmi. Why? We touched upon the various places where Aham Asmi comes. Isha Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Aitareya Upanishad. So there are so many places the word Aham and Asmi comes, and we had a whole scale discussion about that. So go back to it, but this is just a very brief summary of what that Aham is. When Svayambu Manu says, okay, what is the prakarana? He's going to Paramatma for rescue. Please rescue me from this Asura. And then give me a break. Is he going to say, oh, please rescue me, Paramatma, because I am you. You and me are the same, so please rescue me. Yeah. So that is a crazy interpretation, I'm afraid. The proper way of looking at this is in contextual relevance, where he is considering this Aham. So what is the Vedic etymology of Aham? Aham cha asau aheyataha. Aheya means what? Heya means what? That which can be discarded. Aheya means what? That which cannot be discarded. Aheyatvat aham nama. The one that is undiscardable is aham. Our Antaryamin, whether you like it or not, is undiscardable. We cannot get rid of our Antaryamin, let alone ourselves. We cannot even get rid of our own Jiva. Can we get rid of it? No. Our Antaryami, 100% not. So we understood that Aham is a secret name of Paramatma. We also understood that Asmi is also secret name of Paramatma as celebrated in Zenda Avasta of Zoroastrianism. And we discussed all those comparative philosophies. Etymology, Sarvata Asti iti name. This Paramatma always knows himself as an indweller of everything in the cosmos and in the jivas, and somebody who is full of infinite auspicious attributes and without defects. That is what Purushaha Saha Ahamasmi literally means. Okay. So, as I told you before, in the 4th verse of Ishavasya Upanishad, he is celebrated as Guru. Aneja dekam manasa javivo nainad deva apnuvan purvamarshatu taddavato anyan atyeti tishtat tasmin apo matarishva dadati. He has said that in his 4th verse. And when he is thinking about this antaryamitva, and he has brought back his Guru, and he said, Yo vasau purushaha. This Paramatma is inside the most celebrated of all the jivas, called the Jivottama. He goes back and thinks about his Guru again, because it is his Guru who has brought him to this level of elevation that he is actually even beginning to have a sakshatkar of Paramatma. So he is, of course, very grateful about that. And he is a slave of his Guru, of course, and he worships. Svayambu Manu now worships his Guru, who is this Asu. So he gives an explanation of who this Asu is. This is really, really interesting. And I would have done a good session today if I spend the next 40 minutes just describing those 3 words that he has described. Next, they are so profound for philosophical discussion. So what does he say? Vayur anilam amrutam ata idang basmantam shariram om kratos smara krutam smara krutos smara krutam smara. This is the 17th verse for today, which is a new verse for today. So what has he said in the previous line? Saha yo asau purushaha so ahamasmi vayur anilam amrutam ata idang basmantam shariram. So we have to read everything in the contextual relevance. Okay. So there are 3 names that are appearing here. Vayu, Anilam, Amrutam. Vayur, Anilam, and Amrutam. In the previous verse, he has said Asau. And in the 4th verse, he has said Matarishva. So again, when you look at the Upanishads and do the numerology here and the numbers, that itself is very wonderful. Because Svayambu Manu is talking about his Guru, and he gives him 5 names in this particular Upanishad. He gives him 5 names. Asau, Vayuhu, Anilaha, Amrutaha, Matarishva. I'm going to pause there for a minute. Why do we think that Swayambhu Manu is worshipping or celebrating his Guru with 5 names? He could have taken 8 names or 10 names or only 4 names, but he has chosen to take 5 names. Any clues or ideas as to why he might have chosen 5 names? Anybody wants to take this on?
In this context, 5 could be the Vyuha form.
Vyuha form, correct, Devalji. That is with the previous verse, right? Pushan Ekarshe Yamasurya Prajapatya. So that is for the Vyuha forms of Narayana, which he is praising as he is seeing the Narayana. Whereas here he is talking about his Guru, right? And this Guru, he is giving 5 names. Okay. Think about Prana. Prana has 5 aspects. Sorry, who is coming in there?
Prakash, Pancha Prana.
Pancha Prana, fantastic, Prakashji, thank you. So think about that Pancha Prana that he's thinking about. Yeah. So our Vedas are not ordinary texts. We need to think about all these ideas that the Rishis have seen, and they want us to think about this. So this Prana is celebrated with 5 names: Matarishva, Asau, Vayuhu, Anila, and Amruta. Okay. So we need to do justice to we have done, I think, enough justice to Matarishva and Asau, because when we did Matarishva, we discussed about this Balikta Sukta of Rig Veda to understand what is the etymology of Matarishva. So let us recap that. What is Matarishva? Matari plus Shwa. Matari means sky or Akasha. Shwa means that which moves. Ashwa, horse, that which moves. Yeah, Shwa means that which moves or to go. So in the sky, what moves? The wind moves. What is wind? Vayu. So Matarishva is Vayu in that derivation of etymology. But there is a deeper philosophical, profound derivation that comes from Rig Veda. So the Vedas themselves give evidence as to who this Matarishva is. Okay, let's recite this Balikta Sukta. I don't know if anybody wants to recite this in this audience. Anybody familiar with Balikta Sukta wants to have a go at it?
I can do it, Madhuji.
Go for it.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Balita tad vupushe dhyai darshatam devasya bargaha sahaso yato jani. Yadmupoharate sadate madirkatasya dhena aniyanta sasrutaha. Vruksho vapu pituman nitya ashaye. Dvitiyama saptashivasu matrishu trityamasya vashambasya dohase dasha pramatam janayanta yoshanaha. Niryadim bhutnan mahishasya varpase ishana savashakanta suryaha. Yadumano padavivo padma madhvadve guha santam matarishva mathayati. Prayatavidua paramaniyate parya pukshudho virudo tansurohati. Uvedas janasam yadinvat adida avadruna suchi. Adin matrura vishadyasva suchirihim siman urvi avivavrude. Anuyata purva arvata sanajavoni navyashishva varasu dhavate.
Thank you very much, Srikanji. Wonderful. So this is an important suktam in Rig Veda that tells us who this Vayu is and what kind of incarnations, what kind of pastimes that he plays during creation. So look at this. Who are the Rishis here? Dirgatamaha is Rishi, Vayu Devata, Jagati Chandas. That is where it is. So in that, when we read this in Balikta Suktam in detail, the etymology of Matarishva was given there. What is that etymology? Pruksho, Vapuhu, Pituman, Nitya, Ashaye, Dvitiyam, A, Shapta, Shivasu Matrushu. So what that essentially means, go back to that slide to think about it. So this being always thinks about the 7 pure scriptures. Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharvana, Itihasa, Purana, Pancharatra Agamas, and all the Puranas, this Jivotama constantly is hovering around it. That literally is what it means. Ashapta Shivasu Matrushu. Sapta means 7. Shiva there means auspiciousness. Shivasu Matru. Matru means Shabda, scriptures, words. This guy is always moving around it. So that is the meaning of Matarishva there. So I just wanted you to keep that in mind, because as we navigate the rest of the class, we are going to come back to this Balikta Suktam again and again to understand what Vayu means, what Anila means, what Amruta means. Okay. So what has Svayambu or Manu said here? Yo vaso purushaha so ahamasmi Vayu. This guru of mine who is Asu, who is Matarishva, he is Vayu, he is Anilam, he is Amrutam. He is described in 3 other names. Okay? So we need to think about this very carefully as to what that means. Vayu. Okay? It is not just air, right? Abhimani vyapadeshastu visesha anugatibhyam, rule of Veda Vyasa. Whenever any material component is being described in the Vedas, we always think about the sentient being behind all this. Okay, so we are thinking about Vayu Devata here, not wind. If there is any transliteration that talks about the wind, it's unfortunate and they just don't have adequate scholarship, period. So Vayu here is a sentient being. So that Vayu has got 2 etymologies, widely accepted etymologies, 2. One is from the Balikta Sukta. Okay, what did Balikta Sukta said, as Srikant ji so beautifully recited? Balikta tad vapushe dai darshatam. Okay, so what Balikta? That Balikta is split into Bhat Itta. Bhat in Sanskrit means strength. Darshatam, darshanena tatam. Darshana means knowledge. Tatam means all pervasive knowledge. That means supreme knowledge. Okay, so this chap who is called Vayu, he is full of strength and he is full of knowledge. So that is what Balikta Sukta says. And that is the one etymology of Vayu. Va, Aya, and U. Va means strength. Aya means knowledge. U means Utkrishta. The highest levels of knowledge and strength is called Vayu. From Balikta Sukta's perspective. In this verse, so remember, Upanishads never talk the same thing again and again. When we think about Matarishva, we think about Balikta Sukta, but the Upanishad, when it also says Vayu, you also have another etymology there. What is the other etymology of Vayu? Vaya bandhane. Vaya bandhane iti Vayu. Okay. So what does that mean? This is a very profound scientific, philosophical concepts that our rishis have given to us through Isha Upanishad and also in other places. What is that? So you have the whole universe, right? The whole universe, let us say, it is so massive. How is it all held together? How is it, where is this universe resting? Okay. So our rishis had the concept of gravity long time ago. Okay, not in the last 200 or 300 years from the Western scientific thought. The Vedic rishis knew about gravity a long time ago, and they'd given that a name called Sankarshana or Akarshana. Akarshana means attraction. Gravity is literally attraction, right? And they gave this sentient being who controls this as Sesha, who is also called Sankarshana. Okay? So the view there, go with me on this, you will understand what I'm trying to get here. So the whole of universe is held by this Sesha. And in fact, our rishis say there are infinite universes, and in each hood of this Sesha, this universe is sitting like a mustard seed. That is how the description is. The gigantic nature of the whole thing. This is incredible. Of how Sesha, each universe is sitting like a mustard seed. And that is exactly what this picture hopefully shows. So that is the first level of Vaya Bandhane, that which holds everything together. The next question is, who is held by Sesha? Who holds Sesha? So that person in the Vedic scripture is called Vayu Kurma. So this Vayu Kurma, who is also called Prana, holds the Sesha. And next question is, who holds the Sesha and the Vayu Kurma? That is the Vishnu Kurma, who is called as the Pranasya Pranaha in Keno Upanishad. Okay. So we need to have these ideas when we understand these verses as to what Vaya Bandhane means. Vaya Bandhane means that which holds everything together. Gravity holds everything together, but the gravity is a jada. The gravity is under control of sentient beings. What is the first level of sentient beings? Sankarshana or the Sesha. The second level is Vayu Kurma, and the third level is Vishnu Kurma. In fact, when you see this very popular image here, that is what it is all meaning. Yeah. Okay. So this snake here is not literally a snake. It's not Sesha sitting like a snake. It's a very metaphorical thing. But what is Sesha? Anybody wants to tell us what Sesha actually means? What is the literal meaning of Sesha? So Sesha literally means anything, what remains. What remains is called Sesha. Yeah. So when everything is destroyed, what remains is Sesha. So when you think about cosmology, when the stars die and they all collapse, they become a black hole, right? And there is no matter there. All that remains is a black hole, and the black hole is supposed to have infinite gravity. And people also say during pre-creation, when there is this pre-creation stage, when matter has still not come into existence, there is infinite gravitational force. All those discussions happen in cosmology. If you're interested, you can look at this. But the sentient being there is the Sesha or Sankarshana as per our Vedic philosophy. And the Sankarshana is under the control of Vayu Kurma. And the Vayu Kurma is held or under the control of Vishnu Kurma, which is Paramatma himself. So that is the philosophy there. So when we look at Vayu in this verse, Vayur, we need to think about this, because when I say Anilam, you will understand why that makes sense. So when I say Vayu, that is Vayu Kurma, who is Svayambu or Manu's guru, okay, who is also called Prana. Prakrishta Anacheshtayam Anagatav, the one that moves everywhere and holds everything together. Okay. So this is the first contemplation that Svayambu Manu talks about his guru in this verse. After praising him as Matarishva and then praising him as Asu, then he calls him as Vayu. Okay. Now, Let us think about this a little bit more, about this Vayu. That's how he is celebrated further in our Upanishads. We have done this before, but I am never tired of revising. When the Upanishads, every Upanishad that you open up will talk about prana, will talk about Mukhya prana, it will talk about Vayu, it will always, every Upanishad will have it. Yeah, whether you like it or not, it is there. So as I said, matter, gravity, Vayu Kurma or prana. This guy prana is celebrated everywhere. Okay. How is he celebrated? Sahovacha Vayurvai Gautama Tat Sutram Vayuna Vai Gautama Sutra Sutrena Ayam Chalokaha Paranchalokaha Sarvani Cha Bhutani Sandribdani Bhavanti. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Clear statements. Sahovacha Vayurvai Gautama Tat Sutram. So he says this Vayu is the one that is the thread that holds everything together. Okay. Taittiriya Upanishad, in fact, goes to the next level. It says, Namaste Vayoho, Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi, Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmavadishyam. Okay, so I don't know how certain folks can forget these lines, or they conveniently pass over these lines in the Upanishads. Okay. So these are all critical statements when our rishis celebrate this Vayu. Vayuna vai Gautama Sat Sutram Namaste Vayoho Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi. This is beautiful. The Rishi there is saying, we cannot see this Vishnu Kurma, but we can feel this Vayu Kurma in the wind. When he blows, we can have some feeling, some pratyaksha we can do. You are the pratyaksha Brahman for us. We cannot see this Vishnu Kurma, but you are this pratyaksha Brahman. Namaste Vayoho. That Vayu I bow to thee. You are our pratyaksha Brahman. So they celebrate that in Taittiriya Upanishad. In Kena Upanishad, of course, Shrotrasya Shrotram Manasa Manaso Yad Vachaha Vacham Savu Pranasya Pranaha. It goes to another level and talks about this prana. We'll come to this in a minute. If you look at Prashna Upanishad, it talks only about prana tattva. Okay? When you understand the deep philosophy of Prashna Upanishad, it gives beautiful analogies. Like, so you may remember this. Mashika Madhukara Raja Utkramantam Sarvameva Utkramante Tasminishta. So this Mukhya prana is compared to this queen bee, and the Rishi there says, when the queen bee leaves the beehive, all other bees leave. And when the queen bee comes back to the beehive, all other bees come in. That is our situation. This beehive is like this body. All these other bees are like the Abhimani Devatas. And when the queen bee, who is Mukhya prana himself, when the prana leaves, all other fellows have to leave and the body falls down dead. That is how our rishis celebrate this Vayu Tattva prana. Ara iva ratanabau prane sarvam pratishthitam. So this body is like a chariot and this prana is like this ara, this axle that holds the chariot together. If this thing comes out, the whole chariot collapses. Okay. So Prashna Upanishad then completes as Pitatvam Matarishvaha Naha. So the Devatas, then there is a Vayu Stuti there in Prashna Upanishad, where the Devatas then say, you are our father. Pita Tvam Matarishva Naha. Naha there means for us. Pita, father, you are our father. Yeah, that is what all the Devatas talk about. And it is not surprising that Svayambu Manu is also doing the same thing in this Upanishad. Evameva ayam asmin sharire prano yuktaha. Chandogya again says, this is like this body is connected by this chain which is pulled by this prana. So they celebrate this not only in Pindanda, but also in the Brahmanda, this Vayu Kurma. And then, of course, as I told you, this Vayu Kurma himself is under the control of Vishnu Kurma, which is celebrated in Keno Upanishad. And of course, Isha Upanishad has also said that Ishavasyam idang sarvam. Okay, so this Isha, he's there everywhere. Anybody wants to take this Gita 7:7, please? It's a very popular verse of Gita, chapter 7:7. Anand, go for it.
Mattah parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya Mai sarvam idam protam sutre manigana iva.
Beautiful, Anand. Thank you so much. So look at the Gita verse 7. That also talks about the sutra there, right? They talk about sutra in Gita 7. That sutra is this Vishnu Kurma, who is the ultimate, the string that holds everything. Okay. Brihadaranyaka also says this Vayu Kurma Tat Sutram Vayuna Vai Gautama Sutram. Okay, so Vayu is also a sutram. And this sutram is a dependent sutram on this Paramatma or Krishna, who celebrated as Mayi Sarvamidam Protram Sutre Maniganaya. So that's when you look at chapter 7, 7th verse, in this context, it becomes additionally beautiful. Okay. So what did he, so just to summarize this slide, he said this Vayu is holding everything. Okay. Then immediately he says, this Vayu, who is Matarishwa, who is Asau, who is Vayu, he is Anila. My Guru, you are also Anila. This Vayu is Anila. Okay. So what is that Anila actually means? Okay. So we may know who Anila is. I've said Anila is a name for Hanuman, right? I put a figure here. You will now understand metaphorically when you see these pictures where Hanuman is there and Hanuman opens his chest and Ramachandra and Sita is there. Okay. What is the meaning of that? So there is a profound philosophy when we look at this image, and that is what this Anila actually means. And when Svayambu says Vayur Anilam, what is Anila? A plus Nila. A means what? Aha iti Brahma, Aitareya Upanishad. Aha, A is the name of Paramatma. Akara of Omkara is Paramatma. Yeah. So Akara, he is Akara's Nilaya. Nilaya means he is the above, the inside this prana is his Antaryamin. Okay. And this Antaryamin is inside him, who is called Ahanamaka Paramatma. Therefore, he is called Anila, which means that the first pratika in which we worship the Paramatma is Anila, in Anila, that he is inside this Prana Tattva, who controls everything. And that is exactly what Katha Upanishad has done in Hamsa Gayatri, right? We have done it a million times. Hamsaha Suchishat. Suchi, the pure Jiva. The Suchi is another name of Prana Tattva. Hamsaha is a name of Paramatma, Hamsanamaka Paramatma. This Hamsa is in Suchi Shat, Sidati, it is Shat. Hamsaha Suchi Shat. This Hamsanamaka Paramatma is inside Prana Tattva, which is exactly is Anila. Okay, so that is what is this image all about. When Hanuman opens his chest and shows Ramachandra, it is Anila. That is why Hanumanta is called Anila. Okay. The Anila is also, the Vayu is supported by Vishnu in this imagery. That's why I had to do this slide. So the Vayu, for Vayu, this Brahman is a Nila. He is resting. Vayu is resting on Brahman. That is why he is also called Anila. Okay. So Sankarshana, Vayu Kurma, Vishnu Kurma, when you understand this, then we understand what Anila actually means, which is the same as Hamsa Suchishat of Hamsa Gayatri, which then tells us that is why Hanuman is called Anila. We have all these frames, and that Hanuman is celebrated in Balikta Suktam as Matihi. Mati is another name of Hanumanta. Yadim upah varate sadate matihi rutasya dena anayanta sashrutaha. The first avatar of Vayu. Okay, Balikta tad vapushe dayi darshatam devasya bargaha sahaso yato jani. The Vayu takes avatara at the command of Paramatma, and his first avatara, Yadim Upah Varate Sadate Matihi. His first avatara is called Mati, as described in Rig Veda. That's why Dasa Pramati, you might have heard about those words. Dasa Pramatim, Balikta also brings that word, Matihi. So here, I just want to put an interactive session, because I have so far told you what Svayambu Manu has said, right? Vayuranilam Amrutam, Yova Vaso Vaso Purushaha So Ahamasmi, I am talking only from Apaurusha Veda's perspective. But there is a lot of confusion out there. And what I want to do is next 5-10 minutes, I hope I can clear these confusions. So from Balikta Suktam of Rigveda, we understand Hanuman as an avatara of Vayu. Okay? But there are some folks out there, okay, who consider Hanuman as an avatar of Shiva or as an Amsha of Shiva. Okay? So those things exist out there. So how do we reconcile this? And how do we try, from our own perspective, how do we understand and move in the right direction? So they will go for it.
Sorry, it's more of a question. I thought Mati means intelligence.
Correct. So Balikta Tad.
And if Shiva is the Abhimani Devata of mind, and then the word Mati meaning intelligence, it's just sort of something I thought about looking at this slide.
Yeah, sure. So Mati means intelligence. So the way to link that would be Balikta Batu. Yeah, Batu there means intelligence. Vayu, Aya means intelligence. Yeah, so that is one way of looking at it. But I can see where you're coming from. So we will deal with that. Anybody else have any other views? Do we think Hanuman as an avatar of Vayu or Amsa stroke avatar of Shiva? Without being controversial, we are here for knowledge, isn't it? So we just want to know what do the Shastras say. So from that perspective, what do we think? Because I think it's important. Hanuman's temple is everywhere, not only in the UK. Wherever you go, there is a Hanuman temple. The Hanumanta's temple is everywhere. But sometimes I wonder, do we actually understand who this Hanuman actually is? Who's going to tell us what Hanuman itself means? What is the etymology of Hanuman? They will go for it.
Madhusan, just one small question here. I know Hanuman Chalisa is saying that Hanuman is Shiva's Putra. Other than that, is there any other places where Hanuman is referred to as Shiva's Putra? Before we even go into the answer, can you, if you have any idea on,
Yeah, so Prakashji, thank you very much. I've got a slide coming up next, which actually dichotomizes that and gives evidence on both sides and tell us how we reconcile it. So just hang in there for a minute, Prakashji. I'll come to that slide. Yeah, so look at
in Mahabharata, Hanuman is avatar of, in Ramayana and Mahabharata, Hanuman is avatar of Vayu. I don't know much about stories about Shiva, so I can't answer the other side.
No worries, Devalji. Thank you very much. So when you look at the etymology of Hanuman, yeah, so that itself is interesting. Hanuman.
Hanu means Jnana.
Beautiful.
So Jnanavan. Hanuman means Jnanavan.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. So yeah, Hanuman means Jnanavan. Bhat, Aya, Matarishwa, Ashapta Shivasu Matrushu. So when you look at all this, the Samanvaya is 100%. Yeah, it's only our mistake that we don't understand this. That Hanumanta means Jnanavan. Hanuman means Jnanavan. There are some folks, I've seen some transliteration that say, oh, this fellow climbed up to the sky to reach the sun and somebody kicked him on the face and his jaw broke, and Hanu means jaw, so he's got a jaw like a monkey, all sorts of rubbish. Yeah. So when you look at pure Vedic etymology, Hanuman literally means Jnanavanta. Thank you so much for that. So let's look at this to answer Prakashji's question as to how do we reconcile this? Okay. So this is where the dichotomy of Indian thought is, and I want to keep this as non-controversial as it can be, and I'm going to keep it purely academic. Yeah, no emotions attached, purely academic way of resolving this. So the Vaishnava schools. Okay. So the Vaishnava schools, where will they take their evidence from? Apaurusheya Veda and Paurusheya Granthas. So the Apaurusheya Vedas, such as the Balikta Sukta of Rig Veda, Isha Upanishad of Shukla Yajur Veda, they categorically mention that Hanumanta is an avatara. Ittameva nihitam, Balikta Suktam. Itta means Vayu's avatara and Vayu are non-different. It is the same. Whereas Arjuna and Indra, although he's an avatara, there are some differences. That's for another day. So this Balikta Sukta and Isha clearly says, Isha Upanishad, that Hanumanta is an avatar of Vayu. And we know that Apaurushaya Veda is not authoritative. If the Veda say that this is Hanumanta, no questions asked. Then of course you have Paurushaya, isn't it? So Yeche Anuyayinas Tesham Sarvetecha Sadagamaha. That is what Brahmanda Purana has categorized. What are the Paurushayas? Paurushayas are authoritative only when they tally with the Apaurushaya Vedas. Yeah. So such Paurushaya Granthas include Garuda Purana, Brahmanda Purana, Padma Purana, Varaha Purana, Mahabharata, and great works like Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnaya, Vayustutiya Thiruvikrama Pandita. So if you look at all these Paurushaya works, they also categorically tell us that this Hanumanta is an avatara of Vayudeva, who is what our Guru Svayambu Manu is celebrating. Now look at the Shaiva schools. Okay, so Shaiva schools do not accept Vedas. Okay, there is one school of Shaiva schools which do not take evidence from the Vedas. We need to know that. If some of us did not know that, this is the time to appreciate that idea that there are some Shaiva schools that do not take evidence from the Vedas. So they are not Vaidika. Okay, they are not Vaidika, they are Nastika. Okay, that has to be said because that's the fact. So there are some schools, Shaiva schools, such as the Shiva Puranas, the folks who worship through Shiva Puranas. So if you, Prakash, if you go to Shiva Purana, there you will see these kind of names that are being given. Okay, that Shiva, there is a monkey, that there is a monkey form of Shiva that has come. Okay, the words like Shiva is used there in that particular Purana verses. Even Narada Purana uses the word called Rudra. Okay, so Narada Purana uses the word Rudra. Shiva Purana uses frequently Shiva, which became a monkey, an Amsha of monkey, and so on in their Puranas. Okay, there is another one called Vadvalam Stotra, which also talks about this, and it uses the word Rudra. Okay, and the folks who believe that Shaiva schools who believe that Hanumanta is an incarnation of Shiva, they also cite evidence, okay, from Rig Veda, and I looked it up. I looked at the verses very carefully, and it's very easy to answer that. So in Rig Veda, Rudra is used before. So it says from Rudra came Hanuman. Okay, there is another Upanishad that they cite called Tarasara Upanishad, where they use the word Shiva, and from Shiva Hanumanta came. Okay, so this is how the dichotomy is at this point. So it looks like it's a tough nut to crack, yeah, because you have the Paurushaya and Paurushaya evidences on both sides. So how do you resolve this? Okay, so our acharyas and our gurus have given rules of interpretations for Vedas. Yeah? You can't just pick a verse, or you can't just take a word and then come up with a airy-fairy philosophy. Okay? There are rules for critical evidence interpretation. So what I'm trying to do here is rules of critical evidence-based appraisals. How do you do that? We do that in our professional practice. We should do the same thing when we look at Vedas. Okay. So what are the rules there? The first rule is Apaurushaya Veda is superior to Paurushaya Purana. Okay. There can be no controversy on that. If Paurushaya Veda says something, then that is authoritative, because the authoritativeness of Vedas come from Apaurushayatva, Nityatva, and the last thing which is very important, Swataha Pramanyatva. Okay? Hold on to that idea. The next set of rule is Niravakasha Shruti is superior to Savakasha Shruti. So what does that mean? Niravakasha means for these Shrutis, you cannot have an alternative interpretation or meaning. They have only one meaning. And there are Savakasha Shrutis that have additional meanings based on the etymology of the words that are used. Okay? So that all, you need to read and think about these things. So that is a higher level of philosophical interpretation. And that is the reason why one should never ever read transliterations. One should read the Vedas only with Guru Mukha. Period. You cannot read Vedas without Guru Mukha, because then you will understand what is Savakasha Shruti, what is Niravakasha Shruti, how do you do the etymology, and so on. Okay. So if a Shruti has only one meaning, that is superior to the Shruti that has additional meanings. For Shrutis that have additional meanings, what you should do is you should use Brahma Sutra. That is a Prasthana Traya, right? You should use Brahma Sutra for Samanvaya. And you should also use rules for interpretation called Tatparya Lingas to understand what does the Vedas actually mean. Okay, sorry, I'm getting a little bit complicated here, But I think that information needs to be out there to understand why this is not acceptable for certain schools. Okay. Then you have to take etymology of words and the context in which these words come from. Okay. Now, our Veda Vyasa, our founding father, has actually resolved all this in the second adhyaya, first pada. Smrutya navakasha dosha prasanga iti chetna anya smrutya navakasha dosha prasangat itaresham cha anulupadehe etena yogaha pratyuktaha navilakshanatvadasya tatatvam cha shabdat. So all these interpretations is not my own creation or anybody else's creation. This is what Veda Vyasa has said, those rules in Brahma Sutra. So when you put everything, Prakash, here is the answer. When Rig Veda puts Rudra or Tarasara Upanishad puts Shiva, this is where we need to do our Samanvaya. Shiva means what? Literally, Shiva means auspicious. Okay? Shiva only means auspicious, nothing else. And in Vishnu Sahasranama, Vishnu is celebrated as Shiva, the auspicious. Rudra is also auspicious. Shiva is supremely auspicious, independent, auspicious being. So primarily what we call as Parama Mukhya Vritti, when these Shruti text says Shiva, they literally mean only Vishnu. Look at Rudra. Rudra comes from the root word called Rud. Rodhanat Rudraha. So our Shiva is called Rudra because Rodhanat Rudraha. Puranas and Vedas say that Shiva comes from the forehead of Brahman. Forehead of Chaturmukha Brahma is how Shiva originates. That is a Vedic view. Okay. And when he comes out, he cries and howls. So Rodhanat Rudraha, that is how he got the name. Rudra says the Vedas and the Puranas. Here is an interesting snippet. The English word rude comes from the root word rud, to cry or to howl, because when we cry and shout, we appear to be rude. That is how the English word rude comes from the root rud. Our Rudra comes from that. But there is another etymology of Rudra. Rudra, Rudam Dravayati. Misery. Rud also means misery. Dravayati means remove. Who removes our misery? What is our misery? Samsara. Samsara moksha stitibandha hetuhu. Shvetashvatara Upanishad. And that is who? Paramatma, Vishnu himself. So Rudra is a name for Vishnu also. And in fact, our Rudra gets the name Rudra because his grandfather's name is Rudra. Okay. Look at Shankara. Okay. Shankara. Sham plus Kara or Shanka plus Hara. Okay, that is how you split it out. I'm sorry, but sometimes we don't think about this. So Sham means what? Ananda. Kara means the giver. Who is the giver of Ananda? Who gives moksha? Vishnu. Shanka means doubts. Hara means remover. Doubt means what? Ignorance. Samsara moksha stiti bandha hetuhu. Bandha hetuhu, and he also gives us moksha. He removes the ignorance. Gita talks about this. So when you look at those kind of Parama Mukhya Vritti, wherever the Vedas put Rudra, wherever the Vedas put Shiva, wherever the Vedas put Shankara, actually they mean Paramatma, Brahman. Brahma Shabdashta Vishnaveva. That is what Mahaitareya Upanishad also talks about. Tava yetaha sarvaha richaha sarve vedaha sarve goshaha eka eva vyahritihi prana eva prana richa iti eva vidyat. All sounds of the universe only worship Brahman or Vishnu. So those ideas of Parama Mukhya Vritti, Mahayoga Rudi Vritti, and all those ideas are there in our systems. We just need to make an effort to go back and understand this. So when you look at this, Niravakasha Shruti is superior to Savakasha Shruti. Balikta Shukta and Isha Upanishad are Niravakasha Shruti. They are superior to Savakasha Shruti. When I look at the Savakasha Shruti, I can easily use Parama Mukhya Vritti and Mahayoga Rudi Vritti and reconcile that these things actually means the Vishnu himself. And actually, when you look at the contextual relevance, it's very important, and it absolutely makes sense, because these Vedas talk about, from this Shiva, Hanuman was born. Who is Shiva? Vishnu. So when I look at this, Brahmavayu who is the father of Brahmavayu? Vishnu himself. Vishnu has what? Sarva Shabda Vachyatva. When I say Shiva, it actually means Vishnu himself. When I say Rudra, it means Vishnu himself, because I'm looking at the adjectives and etymology of the words. I'm not looking at the Rudi word. I'm looking at Maha Yoga Rudi, Vidvat Rudi, and all that kind of interpretations of Vedas. So when I look at that, it's very clear that Brahma, Vayu, they all belong to a family of souls we call as Rujus. They're all sons of Vishnu, who is called Shiva, Rudra, and Shankar. So when I look at this, I don't have any problem. I am 100% confused. I'm convinced that Hanumanta is an incarnation of Vayu, period. Ittameva nihitam balikta. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So here we can touch very briefly on the concepts of Sarva Shabda Vachyatva. Okay, Vishnu, all words, all sounds of the universe talk about Vishnu. Okay, and for those of us interested in this philosophy of Sarva Shabda Vachyatva, there are gradations here. Okay, so for example, the philosophy is the concept of Sarva Shabda Vachyatva primarily holds for Narayana. And except Purusha Shukta, all other scriptures, every word will also include Lakshmi. Except Ambrini Shukta, every other word of the Vedas can also be used to interpret Vayu Tattva. Except Balikta Sukta, everything else, words can also imply Rudra, Parvati, etc. Okay, so these are higher levels of philosophical understanding of the language of the Vedas. I don't want to confuse you with that, but I hope I've explained to you how to reconcile these kind of confusions, which unfortunately the folks who claim these things do not think about these issues of Vedic philosophical interpretations. It's unfortunate, but it is their problem, not ours. And I've given you a very academic perspective on this. Here is the thing about the Sarva Shabda Vachyatva that I spoke to you about, and you're all very familiar with this. You know, the sound of the lizard praises Brahman. Who wants to answer this? When I say the sound of the lizard praises Brahman, how is that possible? Anybody wants to take this? Just a brief quiz.
I think I can take it.
Go for it, Prakash.
Basically, when the lizard sounds that sound, we also say when you are, what you can say, in awe or something like that. How is that? So it says on us. What I don't know. We are awed at something. Similarly, we are awed at God. That sound represents that. Beautiful, Prakash ji. Yes, absolutely the right answer. When the lizard says, what it means is, oh, how wonderful. How wonderful. How wonderful is this Paramatma? That is how you think about that sound. When your spouse is snoring on the bed, okay, this is not me. This is Aitareya Upanishad. This is Aitareya Upanishad, which says, when your spouse is snoring, what is that snoring actually? That sound is, Prana Tattva is saying, Bhoor, Bhoor, iti eva vishrasati. So the Prana Tattva Vayu is actually praying to Paramatma. You are Bhoor, Bhoor. You are Bhumatma. You are infinite. You are infinite. Is what Prana is praying to Paramatma. So that is how you understand snoring. Okay. I've given you a new interpretation of that. But that is Sarva Shabda Vachyatva. So the Acharyas who actually understood this, that every sound of the universe, we know this. The first sound is Omkara, right? From Om, you have Pranava, then Vyahriti, then Gayatri, then Purusha Shukta, then all the Vedas, then all the sound of the universe. Okay? They all celebrate the greatness of Paramatma. So certain Acharyas think about this very, very seriously. Acharya Madhva in all his works talks about Sarva Shabda Vachyatva and Samanya. And a classic example of somebody who put it in practice is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was a Vyakarana Pandit, but he understood the Sarva Shabda Vachyatva. At one point, he actually refused to teach Vyakarana to his students because he said, whatever sound or whatever letter I see only Krishna in those letters because it praises the greatness of the Lord. Yeah, that is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says. So we need to understand these greater levels of philosophy is what I'm trying to say. So just to wind up that conversation, even Dayananda Saraswati, okay, so this Sarva Shabda Vachyatva of Rudra, I just want to give a proof there. When you look at Dayananda Saraswati's commentary, okay, the third meaning of Rudra is Vayu or air that causes pain to the wicked on account of their evil actions. Okay, Vayu is also called Rudra because of this Sarva Shabda Vachyatva gradation that I've told you. Here is an interesting observation. I need to buy this book, Hanuman's Tale, The Message of a Divine Monkey, by this guy called Philip Ludgendorff. Okay, these are his words, not mine, but I'll just read it.
Indologist Philip Lutgendorf writes, the later identification of Hanuman as the 11th Rudra may reflect a Shaiva sectarian claim on an increasingly popular god. It also suggests his kinship with and hence potential control over a class of awesome and ambivalent deities. Other skills in Hanuman's resume, I find this interesting, his language. Other skills in Hanuman's resume also seem to drive in the part of his windy patrimony, reflecting Vayu's role in both the body and the cosmos, which is what I described to you a couple of slides before. So when you look at independent views, when you look at how to interpret Shastras, 100% Hanumanta is an incarnation of Vayu. For those who think otherwise, it is their problem. But from a Vaidika perspective of following what Brahma Sutra or Veda Vyasa has said, how to interpret the Vedas and how our Acharyas have described, Hanumanta is Vayu. So next time when we go to a temple, when we worship that Hanumanta, please, we should think about what Svayambu Manu has said about Vayur Anilam. Okay. And then finally, I'll finish these 3 words today. Vayur, Prakashji, go for it.
Very quick question. In the Shankara, Shanka, Harati, Shankara, the removing doubt. I want to know how did you arrive at that particular split?
Yeah.
If you can please.
Yes, sure, Prakashji. I can send you the reference. I didn't do the split. I just found a reference that talks about how Shankara can be split. Yeah, I'll send you the reference. So Sham and
Okay.
Karan Shankara, there is a reference for it. Yeah. So, so what he said, Yo vasau purushaha so ahamasmi Vayur Anilam, my guru, Matarishwa, asau, you are Vayu, you are Anilam, you are Amrutam. Okay, this is another profound word of Svayambu Manu. So the 5th name that he is given to his guru is Amruta. This Vayu, who is Anila, is Amruta. Okay, so why has Svayambu Manu calls Vayu as Amruta? Because we know Amruta is only Paramatma, the one that is never born, unborn, yeah, in the sense that he never has a material body, right? He is always there. His avatara is a type of creation for him, but he doesn't acquire any material bodies. Yeah. So that Amruta primarily refers to Bhagavanta. Whereas here, Svayambu Manu says, Hanumanta, Vayu, you are Amruta made. I worship you. Why does he say that? Okay. And there is the cosmology here. Yeah, we need to understand why he has said Amruta. Why? Where is our Svayambu Manu in this grand scheme of things? He is a Manvantara Abhimani. He is the head of the Manvantara, which is called Svayambhuva Manvantara, right? We are currently in the 7th Manvantara, which is a Vaivashvata Manvantara. And in that, we are in the 28th Divya Yuga, for those of us interested in this. Swayambhuva Manvantara is first Manvantara. And what is his lifetime? What is his lifespan? That spans 71 Divya Yugas. How much is that? 306.72 million years. So the Swayambhuva Manu is only alive for 306.72 million years. It sounds a lot of years, but it is very less compared to Brahmavayu. Brahmavayu lived for 311.04 trillion years. That is 36,000 kalpas or dinakalpas, days of Brahma, and equal number of nights. So we are all very familiar with these kind of numbers, isn't it? The time scales of cosmology in Hindu Sanatana philosophy. And in that, Swayambhuva Manu says, mate, I only live only for 306 million years. But look at you. You come and when there is Sarga, when there is creation, Chaturmukha Brahma or Vayu, they come into existence. But have you thought about this issue that they never shed their body? They're just there for 311.04 trillion years. Okay. Whereas what happens to us, folks like us, so I don't know, 7,500 years, but if you're a mosquito or something, the other day I was looking at longevity of all animals. It's shocking how much housefly lives and the worm lives and so on. So that duration for us is so short. Whereas for these guys, Brahmavayu and Rujus, this is a vast time scale and their lifespan comes to an end when the pralaya happens. Whereas for us, we are having birth, death, and so on. But for these guys, they are born once and then they go into pralaya. When pralaya, they are finished. And it is because they have such a long lifespan compared to Svayambu Manu, and forget about us and the Trina Jivas and the worms and mosquitoes. It's nothing, right, for us. So from that relative perspective, he celebrates his guru as your Amruta, mate. Matarishwa, Asau, Vayuhu, Anilam, your Amrutam. Because your body, you don't change your bodies in this kalpa. You have one body and you stay there. Okay? We are all changing. You don't change, you are there. Okay? He says that. Okay. When he said this, I hope this is interesting, because once he has said this, he then says, Vayur, Anilam, Amrutam. You are Amrutam. But you also have a final journey. I want to have that kind of journey. May not be the same, but a similar kind of journey I want. I'm having aparoksha jnana of Paramatma, but I need to move beyond that. I need moksha, right? Where I shed my body. I want to have that. And to bring home that philosophy, here Svayambu Manu says, Atha idang basmantam shariram. Although you are Amruta, at the time of dissolution of the cosmos, when everything has gone into Paramatma's womb, and when the next Srishti is about to happen, we all find our destinations as described in Katha Upanishad. Similarly, every jiva out there in the universe, including Chaturmukha, Brahma, Vayu, Shiva, Rudra, you name it, they all need to shed their some kind of material covering and move over. That is the rule. That is the final rule of journey of souls. The final journey of souls is what? Ata idang basmantam shariram. Okay, so you also have to shed your body and go to the other side, to the transempirical plane. And similarly, I want to do that. Okay, so we don't have time to do this final slide, and I will catch it up next time. And we will start with Ata idang basmantam shariram, link it up with Gita, and go to Mundaka Upanishad, and also go to Katha Upanishad, and put it all together and understand what that Ata idang basmantam shariram means. And then the next line is beautiful. I love this line, because once he said Ata idang basmantam shariram, how is that going to happen? How is it going to happen for you and me? How are we going to have our linga sharira burned, taken away? How is it going to happen? Then he goes back to Paramatma, Yajnanamaka Paramatma, and says, Om Kratosmara, Krutam Smara, Kratosmara, Krutam Smara. Remember me, think about me. And he does it. It's a very emotional line that Svayambu Manu talks about, and we'll deal with that in the next class. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to close today's session, and thanks, welcome back, and thanks for rejoining the Upanishad Chintana. I'm sorry I was away for 3 weeks. And we will carry on with, there may be another 2 weeks where we may have to finish the Ishavasya Upanishad. After this, what we want to do is we want to do a workshop in Isha Upanishad, like how we have done for Katha Upanishad, where we will get all of us to take each section and talk about and present their own understanding and what they have learned over the last 6 months of studying the Isha Upanishad. So hopefully we will complete Isha Upanishad sometime in end of August. Okay. Now, next week we have Suresh Kankanwadi ji and team taking up chapter 18, part B. It's an excellent team that is going to deal with really important concepts. And as you know, 18th chapter is a summary of the Gita, and we had a wonderful session last time. So we are going to do part B of 18, led by Suresh ji, and then later followed by part C. And then what we will do is we'll somehow match up part C and the last mantras of the 18th mantra, as you know, of Isha Upanishad. So mine or his, one way or the other, we will do that. And then we will have a workshop. Okay, so that's the plan for the next 6 weeks. Krishna Pranamastu. We can take up any questions if you have. Okay, so if there are no further, oh, Pragnesh, go for it.
You mentioned about aham, undestructible, and we say, yeah, undiscoverable, undiscardable. Yeah. And in the colloquial we say that we have to give up aham. We have to say finish I, and say aham is the main root cause of all evils, etc. So how would you match that, please? Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful question, Pragneshji. So that one you're talking about the ahankara. Okay.
Yes.
So that aham there is the ahankara, which is one component of the mind, isn't it? Manas, buddhi, ahankara, chitta, and chetana. Okay.
Yes.
So I know you're on call probably just outside the theater. So when you have
Yes,
just
yes.
done your major surgery right now, so maybe what we have to think, it's a difficult one to do. What we have to think is, this surgery, I am only an instrument in what I have just done or saved somebody's life. I am just an instrument. I have not done this because I am a dependent being. So that is what I think the perspective we have to take. So that is ahankara. Whereas the aham, and that is an important thing. The soul needs to know that it exists. Isn't the I-ness of the soul is an important thing. It needs to know I am is there. The I as a jiva is there. We all have that perception. Prajnesh as a jiva is there. Sudarshan as a jiva is there. We have our own consciousness. We are there. Okay? That aham is required. For that aham, to be consider myself as an aham, you consider yourself as aham and undiscardable, because there is an aham namaka paramatma inside you as an antaryamin who is allowed you to be so. So that is how that aham comes in. I hope that makes sense. Right, excellent. Thanks, Pragnesh, for those excellent questions. If there are no further questions, we can close today's session unless anybody else has any comments or any news or anything to share. Sudarshan, anything to inform the group or? Okay.
Sorry, Madhu. Just like we'll probably talk privately and then inform. We need to have our annual day. We probably have it in September. We'll talk about it privately and then inform this. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah. So if you can do it in Stoke, that'll be wonderful. So on that note, just wanted to say that August 7th to 14th, 10 of the Sahiti group members, we are going to Budapest, to Krishna Valley. So I'll give you some information on that nearer the time. Where the plan there is every day what activities that it's going to be spiritually packed there. So we'll do videos and share with the Sahiti group as well, Sudarshan. Okay, excellent.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
All right, guys. If there are no further questions, Sudarshan, can you take us through Omkara, please?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Oh. Thanks, everybody. Yeah.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Hare Krishna. Stay safe. We'll catch up next week.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.